very good morning to all of you. Distinguished chair of the session and my fellow panelists. This is indeed a good opportunity to share with you some of the ideas of Central University of Tamil Nadu. Please don't come to the conclusion that it is a case study. The reason why I am mentioning Central University of Tamil Nadu is that it was in 2009, precisely with the aim of expanding inclusive education to states that hitherto did not have a central university. A common omnibus act was introduced in the parliament, and 12 new universities came up in different parts of the country. Tamil Nadu is one of them. So at the outset, the inclusive policy of incorporating states that did not have a central university has therefore been established by the setting up of these 12 new universities. So the first dimension of the policy of the Government of India towards expanding inclusivity has been achieved in the setting up of these 12 new universities. Having said that, it's also important that the location of universities by rhetoric and by ideology can be in remote areas, can be in rural areas. But in case we want to seize the opportunities of the knowledge society, of the knowledge economy, networking is very important. So unless we have a country that is inclusive, unless we have in our country inclusivity with regard to expansion of the ICT sector on a broad and an equitable basis, the goals of inclusive education is not going to be achieved. It is precisely for this reason forums like this, the ICT and leaders from industry, leaders, policy makers, including the chair of this session, need to dwell a little bit more attention on the parameters that makes institution inclusive in expanding the networking potential of the institutions. Having said that, the country does not necessarily have an inclusive perception of what it wants to perceive in higher education. This state, plus all the southern states included, we have a parental and aspirational perception that people would like to go for engineering and medicine. The rush and the number of institutions that are there is evidence enough for us to understand that there is a skewed perception of what higher education ought to be. But it is in this context to make the aspiration more inclusive and also to include many other disciplines that a university set up in a liberal framework, a liberal thinking framework, serves the need of a broad-based education. Now, these are statistics that are released just a week ago from the Universities Grants Commission. So I thought that there cannot be any better source for this forum than quoting and using some of the slides that they have. You would notice that although arts has got 37.9% enrollment, many of us do agree that arts courses in the country, just by commonsensical perception, are by default choice. Whether we like it or not, that is the reality. Now, this is something that also has to be concerned, that higher education requires a large amount of faculty. And government and many forums, including the forums like this, have always argued, where do we get the teachers from? And we cannot get teachers without their having a very intensive education. PhD may or may not be a must, but doctorates give a certain amount of training in terms of analytical and empirical data collection techniques, if not anything. That is the reason why probably PhDs become more important, because the process involved in getting a degree enhances the critical faculty of the individual. Now, the MC of this session already has indicated to you that we have grown. We have grown exponentially. We have grown now, we are about 600 plus universities, and hosts of private universities are coming. Now, the arrival of the private universities also has to be looked in a perspective that when public institutions have a policy framework which is justified to enhance equity and access, the residual population which doesn't find a place in the public institution has spurred the rise of the private universities. Many people might call it aberrations, but the reason that they exist and their numbers are growing, shortly by the end of next year, probably the number of private universities in the country might be more than the state and the central universities put together. We are about now 50-50, but I'm sure that the private universities will. What I'm trying to say is that the corporatization of education, which is the buzzword of critique, may be a valid point, but it also by default enhances inclusivity in higher education because it provides opportunities for the sections who are willing to pay or are inclined to pay because they may or may not find a place in the public education system. Now, the reason why I was keen in participating in this forum was when I proposed to the secretary, I had thought that they would ask me about the ICT, but the panel somehow talks about inclusivity. Nevertheless, I can always tweak, being teachers, we can tweak the sessions to our objectives. Today, the location, I said at the introductory remark, enhances the potential for information society. Unfortunately, what has happened is we are part of the National Knowledge Network. We are also part of the NMICT. But the upload and the download speeds in Tiruvallur, where I'm located, and I feel that I can share this with the other panelists who also come from equally remote areas, is abysmally low. I cannot Skype, I cannot have a decent email conversation. So this is some reality that we have to understand, that IT policies should look at the country as a whole and have an inclusive expansion of its resources so that every corner of the country gets integrated into what we call as the national knowledge grid. We have theories, we have concepts as to how ICT can make our education more inclusive. This time I'm trying with the low speed, I'm trying to hire a IIT mathematics professor, and he will be visiting twice in the semester. The rest of the sessions, he will be interacting on the Skype mode. Speed notwithstanding, I have taken the risk that this is the way to go, because IIT Kanpur professor coming to Tiruvallur takes him 2 days, and he may or may not have the necessary time. So that is one way by which we want to make expertise inclusive. So we have various policy initiatives, but these policy initiatives unfortunately are more in terms of clarity of what we can do, but the reality is something different. I'm not complaining, but I think we need to address it, and we are trying to address it in a very big way. And I'll stop at that, and probably if there are panelists who would like to specifically ask as to how we are overcoming the limitations of integrating ourselves into knowledge network. On the question of inclusivity in terms of social access and equity, few states are better off in terms of the OBC representation, etc. Tamil Nadu is one of that. So the problem of the next social class getting integrated into higher education is not a very significant challenge in Tamil Nadu as much as it is from other states, but still we are making our attempts to see that minorities educate women and the OBC class get a better share of whatever we are established. We started with 8 students, and after 4 years, we are about 600 students. And that's the growth of expansion of inclusive education in Tamil Nadu, represented by the Central University of Tamil Nadu. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.